It's happened again.
Man.
It's happened again. Good, good afternoon. A great birthday present to the man in black over here. I am here with my friend, my fellow tactical nerd, my Arsenal fan, my buddy, Mr. Rohan Jivan. How are you, good sir?
Oh, great! Happy birthday! I didn't even know. You've been saying it's like, oh, it's in a few weeks. I'm thinking to myself, okay, it's still in a few weeks. So that's a great birthday present.
Oh, bloody good 30th. I'm not gonna lie. You got your little Eze and Bob's your uncle, little Ornstein Bamba. Never hurt anybody. But oh my god, mate, I
Are you
there's been
feeling
a lot.
horny, George?
Uh,
Horny, not the H. Horny.
you know what? Here, this is first where I need to stand on it because I want to know what are you reacting to? Let's not get into the tactics of it. Just pure emotion. Give me the catharsis after what you had in the morning with the
Oh my
Havertz
god.
news. But just in general, right? Because I think this Eze thing, I made this claim on Twitter and I was just like, I think this is the most cultural healing signing we've had since Ozil. What are your initial thoughts just to Eze and him coming home?
Well, let's firstly go through the day, all right? So, woke up, go to work, quite productive. And then I don't even know about the Havertz injury. Someone at work just messages me via Teams, like, have you seen the Havertz news? Like, what do you mean Havertz news? I thought, let's see the injury. For oh my god! So I put myself on do not disturb because I was fuming, and my head was on Mars. My head still is on Mars about that actually, and just like the Trossard news yesterday as well, which we'll obviously get into, and I just needed this. I just needed this lift. I think everybody needs this lift. We've been talking about Eze for so long. We did the scouted on Eze as well, and how much we were praising him with a lot of praise. And yeah, it just feels so right. Like Eze, I feel like when you look at the targets that we've had this summer, every single player's had there's been a little bit of a dichotomy amongst the fans. Some like, some don't, and that goes with Gyökeres, that goes with Sesko, goes with Madueke. I feel like Eze, everybody is on the same wavelength, and that just feels right. Outside of the tactics, which we spoke about many times, haven't we? So.
Absolutely, and you know what? Like we needed this. We needed this desperately. I think this is a transfer that you don't squint to see. Yeah. I personally felt like, I'm going to be honest, I was a lot more negative on our potential window than you and Alex were, but not by much. I mean, we were all within 0.5 of each other really on the window, but I think it could be fair to say that it was good.
Yes.
Trending towards great if something like this happened.
Exactly.
And I can finally feel confident that it could be more in the great category when I start to consider an Eze along with even without the Havertz news, mate. Like for me, that's another topic, and we'll get into it maybe a little bit later in the live. Because for me, this represents a complete midfield rebuild. It really does on every single scale. And look, there's a lot of maybe the emotional aspect to this, that this is probably one of the most Wenger-coded Arsenal type players. And I want to lean into that because in an era with Mikel Arteta, who's got these 6-foot demons, that we talk about duels, we talk about the press. We just did an entire pod about the press changes and how vertical we are. You don't have to go and look very far to see how Eze makes sense for an Arsenal football club. And you know what? I can just see it in the comments. People, you guys are all gassed. Thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it.
See what I mean? It just feels so good. I think everyone needed this. There's been, I think, after Old Trafford and a big 3 points that we spoke about in the main pod, I feel like everything that has happened since then has been a bit of a downer in terms of the news that we've been getting. And with everything that's been happening with Eze, the roller coaster in which, it seemed very clear that we were going to go after him and it was going to happen. And then Spurs swooped in and Arsenal's priorities seem to have shifted to then now it happening again. That roller coaster and getting back into this position now, I think, I just think everybody needed this. And
they did.
As this comment says, I can go to bed peacefully. They'll say, like, I can actually have a nice sleep today after this.
But you know what? I have to be honest. I was saying it in group chats. This gave a bit of a Willian thing to me. I have to say, I felt that this was something along the line Gotta hold my hands up. I was getting a little doubtful. It's a
It got a bit shaky.
birthday. I gotta get a little bit shaky because I felt like there's no way, given all the reporting, if we're being really real, people were very much, you know, I don't know, they were very pessimistic, weren't they? Like, let's call a spade a
Yeah,
spade. But I mean, the reporting from earlier in the summer, Eze's a separate deal. It's separate
yeah,
to all the other attackers. It was consistently reported, and there was a trend to people just accepting a two attacking window. People calling it copium. For you, okay, where do you stand? We'll address the injury, in moments and whatnot. Where do you stand on Eze in terms of a three attacking window? What do you make of
yeah.
the window, regardless of how late it might be? We can talk a little bit about that down the road, but just in terms of pure quality, what he does to the squad and squad building right now, where are you at with now an Eze, Madueke, Gyökeres window?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the stuff we're going to be saying here is kind of repeated from the scouts that we did a month ago, really,
Hmm.
isn't it? Because our thoughts haven't really changed since then. Um, I felt like when I went into this window, and I was maybe different to both yourself and Alex in terms of I looked at it more from the perspective of I need to add players who give us qualities that this team currently lacks. And I think one of the things I wanted in abundance was that pace, that and ability to threaten the last line. And whatever you think about Gyökeres and Madueke, they offer that. They offer those
Yeah.
qualities, and you're seeing slight changes, although it's an incredibly small sample size because United is one game. Although I think we have seen it as well in games against Villarreal and Bilbao, but you are seeing certain things that we are doing that we've alluded to previously of Arsenal going a little bit more direct, and that suits a Madueke and a Gyökeres, and those are the types of players that this team needed. But then I felt, and I was in the camp where I thought getting free attacking signings when I went into this window, if I'm being honest, I found that difficult to understand given squad space and how we're going to be able to share the minutes. But after that Ethan Waneri situation and the articles that came out in that game time wasn't the issue, and and it's not the profound priority at this stage of his career. And on top of the games that we are going to be playing in all competitions, I then started to understand, okay, that third attacking signing does make sense, and I'm on board with that. And I felt for me, okay, we've got two players who are giving us that ability to threaten the last line. Now I need more of a creative between the line presence, and Eze fits that. So when I look at the three attacking signings, like I said, whatever you think of them, we have added things that this team currently lacks, and that's what's really exciting for me. And we looked at that Manchester United game. Everybody, you don't need to have rewatched it. You watched it first time, and you saw the number of opportunities we
Yeah,
had in
yeah.
open spaces. Eze thrives in those. In those scenarios, Eze
Right.
would have killed it, absolutely killed it.
So I
So
definitely want to talk the squad building of
yeah,
it. Firstly, let's just go this Mr. Fabrizio Romano, of course. Following talks tonight, Arsenal are convinced that Eberechi Eze prefers to join them over Tottenham. Shock horror, that was never in doubt
yeah,
for
that was
me.
never, yeah,
60 million pound package offered to Palace with easier add-ons and faster payment terms to try and beat Spurs. Negotiations underway. Mate, this to me is a classic Willian transfer. Like I was, you got to tell me, I was saying this in the group chats. I was
you are.
feeling it. I really felt we were waiting to get to a point in which Spurs have completed the deal, and then for us to kind of swoop in. And I think that it came to a head with just the reporting, wasn't it? It's the tone.
Yeah,
It was the tone that I think a lot of people had an issue with in terms of people feeling like we were done in the window, which I never understood because Mikel was very consistent. If you listen to Mikel's words, not the pessimism on journalistic interpretation, it was, we're in the market. We still
mm.
need to continue to do more. And maybe I can ask you, because this is probably it. Like, do you believe this was a case of if Havertz hadn't got injured, we don't get this? Was this potentially all in the works? Because I have a really hard time believing that you drop 60 million pounds
Just that.
inside
Yeah,
2 days of a
yeah,
feared injury. We don't even
yeah,
know the extent of the
yeah.
injury.
I
Like,
don't mind that. Yeah,
we
yeah.
played on Saturday, or sorry, Sunday we played on. Sorry,
Sunday,
we
yeah,
played on Sunday. He
yeah.
was fine on Sunday. And let's even go and say that he's been out for the season, and we've got that confirmed internally. Eze doesn't replace Havertz. There
Yeah.
isn't This isn't a response. Like, so to me, I understand the pessimism, but I gotta give what to me seems like credit from an operations standpoint. And there was
Yeah.
a lot of questions that were being levied at Berta. And I wanted to get like your feelings on, I mean, we're all gassed, right? Like, is this the type of deal that heals like fears on Berta? Because there's been a lot of like conclusions
Yeah.
being made about the trajectory of Arsenal, how Mikel is a very smart man, and how potentially he's the smartest man at Arsenal, and whether or not that's a bad thing. Like, there have been questions, and I don't want to poo-poo them and be dishonest. Like, where is your head at as far as maybe Berta's concerned, operation, and how this came about? Is this Arsenal being reactive, proactive, or somewhere in between for you?
I don't think this was contingent on an injury to Kai Havertz. I
Yeah,
don't believe that. I've never believed that. I do think that what we have seen clearly is the reports of Arsenal going for free attackers has been consistent, and now we're seeing it in play. I do
yeah,
understand the apprehension that fans had, including myself, because I think naturally, you look at past sample and the most recent evidence that we've had in terms of being left disappointed was the January window, wasn't it? And when we all were frustrated with what happened at the end, and we saw players come out, the likes of Declan Rice, who was explicit in terms of the need for an attacking player and emphasizing the fact that the manager is bringing on a left back to play left wing. And at that time in January, we had played 9 games relative to 2 games or 3 games in the previous January. And we had so many injuries, and the board reacted to doing absolutely nothing whatsoever. And it felt like in that moment in time, they were throwing away the season from that lens, not
yeah.
giving the team the support that it needed. And I think that PTSD has been carried over into this summer window, given what's been happening recently, especially with the Trossard news as well, with the extent, with not the extension, the pay rise.
Yeah.
So I feel like that apprehension maybe is what got fans a little bit more worried and frustrated. I don't know if you kind of feel that was the case, or
Well, I definitely think the Trossard news didn't help. And I'll be
yeah,
honest with you, to be fair, because I don't
yeah,
want to be I told you so and holier than thou.
yeah,
It does kind of confuse me, if I'm
yeah,
being abundantly clear,
yeah,
even with this
100%.
in charge, right?
Yeah.
And I don't want to be negative on a stream that we're so ecstatic for, but it does confuse me a little bit. Now,
Unless George, just to quickly jump in there, do you think I don't think it is the case, but do you think the Trossard pay increase was because of the Havertz injury? I don't think it is, but part of me maybe thinks there might be something there potentially in terms of that happening. Because I have always felt like, we spoke about it many times in terms of like player hoarding and having too much of a bloated front line in terms of attacking options. Because right now, let's be honest, if we have to consider the players who have not been sold yet at this moment of time, we've got a lot of players in that forward line. And I've always felt like the discussion seemed to be around Martinelli and Trossard, and one of them had to go in order for us to free up the space for this third attacking player. And I always felt when we're talking about stylistic comparisons, Eze is a lot closer to a Trossard than he is closer to a Martinelli. That's not to say Eze and Trossard are similar, but in terms of where they thrive and some of the things that they do, there's more similarity there as opposed to Eze and Martinelli. So seeing Trossard now, quite clearly to me, he's going to be staying. And we'll probably talk about him a little bit more later. And
yeah.
having Eze now, I do get a little bit confused on that. So
Yeah, and that's where I agree, right? I think that some of the decisions that we've seen in the last week seems to be a little bit strange.
yeah,
However, I want to go on into the fun thing and talk essay. I want to talk the squad building. I want to talk about what this means, what potentially this implies for our future, and yeah, I hate to do it, but who this may put pressure on. I mean, mate,
yeah,
to have his quality in here right now, as a for me, is somebody that is undoubtedly a starting level quality addition. I
hmm,
don't believe prior to a World Cup year,
yeah,
Eze is going to move where he does. Let's just have it right. Like I know we make fun, and it's happened again, but from a player perspective, you're gonna move because it's your boyhood club. There is just an emotional tethered connection that's gonna pull at your heartstrings. But at the same time, this is a career. This is a career that the man has to keep in mind and he has to consider.
yeah,
I don't believe he moves to Arsenal without having some of those talks about there being a seriousness towards his usage. And I don't think Arsenal moved, by the way, for a player of his quality this late in the window without that intent. Like
Hmm.
he will represent our most expensive signing this summer because
Yeah. Yeah.
Gyökeres was 55, right?
Yeah.
Madueke 52. I believe that Zubamendi was just above his release clause of
Just above.
52.
Yeah.
So Eze is our most expensive deal of the summer.
Hmm.
That's not to bench.
Yeah.
And um, I just think that this explodes the midfield options that I'm having a look at here. And of course, we've got some opportunities to play off the left. Of course, we've got opportunities for me where I have a feeling that between Jesus and Trossard, maybe the only thing I might ask you is have we moved forward on the Jesus sale potentially? Have we looked at that as a guaranteed leave? And we're looking at Trossard to fill the experienced attacking role for a year. And Jesus might be moved on a little bit more in January. Like, has the decision to increase wages there slightly to offset the 265 that we want to get rid of in Jesus? I could understand some of that logic while
Mhm.
still adding an Eze, while still, looking at other options. I think that when I have a look now just at our midfield, mate, I'm just going to ask you the flat out question: who's the starting midfield for you? What's the starting lineup for you
Yeah.
now with something like this? Is this a Martinelli swap, which to me is not really the profile
Yeah.
thing?
I've
But
so
what do you make of
I
this?
think we slightly differed on this in the scouted, didn't we? Where I saw Eze as a plug and play type player. But right now, I would say I've if you told me where Eze is going to play predominantly next season, I think it'll be on the left. I do
Mhm.
have a feeling it's going to be there, and I think especially with a Calafiori at left back, I think that's where he's going to play his predominant minutes. But that doesn't mean that I won't see him in midfield. And as you alluded to with the Erdegaard um, conversation there alongside a Waneri, there's a big option, a big opportunity for Eze to play in that role. I just feel like I like the idea of the Calafiori and Eze dynamic in
Mhm.
certain games and certain moments. And that's not to say Martinelli is displaced expeditiously. I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities to play different players in different games. But when we're talking about where I think Eze is going to have his most minutes, I do think it's going to be on the left wing. So I think this is interesting because I think we perhaps differ quite
Well,
differently here, right?
no,
And
like I think look, logically there's more space on the left wing, but for me,
mm,
I kind of build this out like, okay, next year what am I going to get? I think that we
yeah,
get more of a traditional winger. And I think
yeah,
that more solidifies the question because look, I think right now the way that Gyökeres is learning the press right now,
yeah.
we've got too many people that are new. And
Yeah.
even if
Yeah.
Eze was to come in, by the way, which he would need a lot of education in the press. That's another thing to consider. I think
Yes.
it's just too early for Odegaard to be out of the 11. But I do
Mm.
question what the long term viability is when you start to say, okay, we're talking about somebody that's a little bit more of a final ball, a better
Yeah.
transition. I mean, the things that we were frustrated with our vertical style on the weekend are solved by an Eze. And
Yeah.
so
I mean, you put him in those situations, and Arsenal are immediately having two or three better final actions, and
easily, whether that's
yeah,
on the left or on the right, and
yeah,
I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, what does somebody like a Martinelli with the overlap of a Calafiori with an Eze
yeah,
floating as a 10? What does that look like in terms
yeah,
of it? And it pops to me. And equally, I think Eze and Odegaard could pop together. Like, I don't think it's the finishing of Odegaard, but I think
yeah,
it at least stresses the question to me that he's no longer a guaranteed starter pillar.
yeah.
But
Let's
I don't think
yeah.
people are talking about that
Mm,
potential of them playing together, and to me,
yeah.
that's very exciting.
Yeah, that's so. Let's actually go towards that conversation, and let's
Yeah.
really look into his usage at Arsenal. And I think
Mhm.
right now, when we're talking about okay, let's forget about Arsenal and let's look at where Eze could thrive in a team. It and playing in a nominal 4-3-3, a flat out 4-3. We're going ultra basic. You're talking about the left hand side of that midfield, the right hand side of that midfield, which is obviously where Martin Odegaard plays, and also on the left wing in terms of especially if you can complement him with a specific fullback or a specific left sided midfielder. Right now, what you would say is the left central midfielder is not tailored to an Eze. But then my argument would be, and I said this on X, where we I totally understand the demands of Arsenal's press. I watch every game so many times. I've seen it, right? And the left central midfielder right now has such a difficult job in terms of what he's tasked to do. But not every game is about the press. Why can't there be games in which you can go a little bit more expressive with two out and out creative between the line operators in an
Yeah.
Eze, in an Erdegaard, or in an Eze, in a Waneri, or vice versa? That I think there's a really good opportunity to do that, and that's why I think he gives us a lot of opportunities to combat different game states if we're willing to be flexible. And I do think we're going to be flexible. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I do think so as well. And just before my other battery, sorry, this is very unprofessional on stream, but could you check the private chat just in case? Because my other one's going to go on low battery. But so I think in terms of maybe some of the usage, I don't know if you want, but maybe we can throw out the tactical board and just talk about potentially some solutions that we might see as just broadly speaking. But can you like tell me maybe as I'm pulling this up and I'm getting this ready, do you feel that this changes any of the Max Dowman, Ethan Waneri pathways? Personally, I think that in the short term, what it certainly does is stress them. And I don't think that's a bad thing. First is my one thing that I want to say. But secondly, I think it puts there was a lot of faith in the Nani Madueke left wing with the current squad building. I wasn't as much of a fan. I like to see it. I don't think that it should have been a predominant change. I don't think it should have been one of plan A. And I felt like if we had gone into the season without an Eze, it would have been. And that's
Yeah.
separate to an Ethan and a Max, who, by the way, I think Ethan has tons of false nine potential that I've spoken about before. It's just a difference in terms of how you might want to use them. But with Max, with Ethan, I have to ask you, where are you in terms of the integration of those specific youth along with an Odegaard, an Eze? Have we gone into the category of too many attacking
I
midfielders after not having enough, according to some people?
I don't think so, because I think like last season, if we look at it, there was a big reliance in the absence of Martin. When we saw Martin Odegaard absent, what was Mikel Arteta's preferred solution? It was to have Kai Havertz operate in that role. And for me, Kai, I felt, did a really good job in terms of coming in and giving us an element of consistency. But you could tell that his ceiling and the team's ceiling with him in that role is capped. And when you're talking about, okay, let's say without an Eze, who is the deputy to Martin Odegaard? It's Ethan Waneri. And Ethan Waneri has a ton of talent, and I really, really love this player. But I think it wouldn't be fair for him to be the understudy to Martin Odegaard at this moment of time. And I think bringing an Eze kind of takes off that pressure off a player who is just turned, 18 years old?
Right.
At a team that is looking to compete on all fronts. So I think for me, Eze is the perfect, at the age that he's at as well, is the perfect player to come in right now with a Max and an Ethan in mind. Max, this for me doesn't put any sort of stress on Arsenal rushing a Max Dowman potentially to come
Completely
in
agree.
to combat a specific game. Like right now, I think if you asked Arsenal fans who had watched the preseason games and we had, let's say we go to the Leeds game, right? And it doesn't go very well and we need a
Mm,
goal. I think there'll be certain fans who would look at Max Talman as a
as an
choice,
option.
because as an option. And that's crazy because we'd still have a lot of other options in terms of, like, say, a Madueke, a Trossard. But I think Max Dalman's name would be there. Whereas now with an Eze, I think it removes that stress and that pressure on someone who is just 15 years old, and also someone on Ethan Waneri as well, who, as we've alluded to in the articles, it has been explicitly stated that game time was not an issue for Ethan right now. And
Yeah.
it's about just learning and understanding the demands in a different role as well. And I think Eze certainly gives you that insurance policy, but he's not just an insurance policy, as you alluded to. He is a serious starting level upgrade player who can operate in multiple different roles. So, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
and well, I wanted to ask you kind of in terms of does he walk into you to start, like, how would you integrate Eze? Because we have also talked about this how for me the left wing, even if it was a starting attacking midfielder, right? Like either way that you might see him, it's a huge pressing change from
Yeah.
Palace to here. Is this just a case of a player being so revered by the fan base, the pressure? Like
Yeah.
I'm trying to understand. I think he can handle it, by the way. But it's my job as a host. I've got to ask you, how would you integrate Eze over the next couple weeks before the international break? Let's call it.
Slowly, personally, I would go a
Mm.
bit slower, but because I basically, again, going back to the scouted, I mentioned how one of the big reasons why I wanted Eze in quite early is
Yep.
because the way that Palace play and the way that Arsenal play is a completely different operation. Where the way that Palace
Sorry,
pass,
mate, just to jump in, could you explain just again for people that maybe didn't get that in terms
yeah,
of what the major differences in the press were for you between Palace and Arsenal?
yeah, sure. So what like Oliver Glasner has done a fantastic job, right, in his own way. But the way that Palace play and what they ask of their forwards is completely different to the way that we operate and what we ask for our forwards. So what I mean by that is Palace aren't a team who presses. They don't press full court and go all guns blazing and go man to man. What they do is they sit a little bit deeper, but not too deep, but in a way in which they're looking to block the passing lane centrally and they're looking to funnel you wide, which is what most teams do. But Palace aren't a team who are, very have the need to jump early and to leave the gaps. They don't do that. So
Mhm.
they stay very tight. And that's why when you look at Eze, Sarr, and Mateta, if you look at their numbers in terms of passes blocked and you compare it to like pressing numbers, they rank quite poorly in pressing because they're not tasked to press in the way that you see other forwards, like what you see at Arsenal. But if you look at the number of passes that they blocked, they rank really highly, like really, really highly. And that makes sense with the way that they operate. At Arsenal, it's different. It's not just about screening and blocking lanes. It's about being able to understand what triggers there are and when to jump, when not to jump. Like if you look at Gyökeres, for example, Gyökeres has been in an environment where they do press. Under Amorim at Sporting, it was a pressing system, but it's different at Arsenal, and that's why you saw Mikel allude to how certain things we demand and the rhythm that we expect of our forwards. It's going to take him a bit of time. So that's someone who's been in a pressing environment that is still going to need some time. And you imagine someone like Eze, who's a very intelligent player. We're adding, by the way, a lot of chess champions in our team. It will take him some time, and I think a slow integration is the best way to approach it. Like, so if you told me we signed Eze, I think Leeds would be too soon potentially. Actually, maybe not because he has been playing recently.
He's fit.
But yeah, he's fit and he's played against Chelsea. And by the way, going slightly off topic, so professional as well in terms of the performance that he delivered against Chelsea. You know, with everything that is going on, it's very easy for players to kind of get distracted, but he was fantastic. So yeah. But I would go for a slow integration. I don't know what you would go with.
I'm caught in two minds where I'm with you. I think it needs to be slow for me because I think you're not setting him up for success whatsoever. But also he is such a intelligent player. I actually I buy a Zubamendi type adaptation that yes, I want him in earlier because there's so much to learn, but I think he takes it on and he takes it in rhythm. I think this is a guy that is so criminally underrated for his spatial awareness. And I think people that have seen me in a group chat have probably been kind of confused at how heavy I am this year about Eze. It has been about me watching the development about primarily his release. I'll be quite honest with you. Eze had a tendency to over dribble into the final third in some previous seasons. And I think what I saw last year in terms of what he was able to pull together for the consistency to which he was able to do it, that was now 2 seasons on the bounce. After February, he's been the best player in the Premier League.
Yeah.
And that's in the run-in. And that's some serious praise, by the way. I don't do that very lightly. I think he was always a player to me that I'm like, no, you have the potential to pop. I never doubted some of this. But for me, I have a feeling that this is a guy that's going to walk in, mate, and just take off. I think he has been bubbling at Palace. I think he's been bubbling for a while. And Look, I think sometimes narratives matter, mate. Like, I think for him to come home, this type of journey for him personally is going to be incredibly emotional.
Yeah,
I think he's going to walk in knowing the expectations and seeing from the outside and knows what he can fix in this Arsenal team. Some of the things that he is phenomenal at, and let me just retweet it for people. We did that scouted, but it is for me the decision making in transition. This guy never makes the wrong decision in
yeah,
transition. But like we had a talk about how United had all the runs, and then at points, there's two things, right? There's attacking running lines, and then there is the whole idea about the release, the decision making on the release. We struggled with that as a team on the ladder. I think I can coach running lines. We've got speed. We've got the players now that are going to attack space. And we finally got now somebody that I think can really help with the latter part, which is really that decision making in transitions. But really quickly, let's go to the tactical board. Let's talk like 4 or 5 minutes. You let me know where you see him best. I've tried to kind of put in the background as I'm going here. Guys, you should be so proud. I'm working tech right now like a wizard, and this is
you're
evolution.
smashing it. You're
This
absolutely
is
smashing
evolution.
it.
So I think that in terms of the tactical board, what I've got, and you let me know if you can see this, okay? Um, I've got basically an Eze. I've got a kind of Gabrielle going. Um, and I've got kind of a Calafiori. I got Timber going. I've got our Zubmendi, Rice, Odegaard midfield. I think this is what you feel our starting 11 will be in primary
In
terms.
terms of where I see Eze playing when we're talking about next season, I think that is going to be the case. And actually, when we look at it from a balance perspective, it works really well with a Calafiori. And I think for
Yes.
me, it always goes back to where's the best example that we've seen in terms of Mikel Arteta's Arsenal in having this sort of dynamic. It was Kieran Tierney and Emil Smith Rowe. Difference is obviously Calafiori is a lot more multifunctional than the
Yeah.
Kieran Tierney. He's two-way, whereas Tierney was excellent on the outside, but that is only really where Tierney's qualities lied, in an attacking sense. Although to be fair, he was very underrated on the underlap as well at times. But Calafiori is a lot more multifunctional. And again, Eze, when you're talking about Emil Smith Rowe and what Eze do, these are players who love to come inside, and
Yeah.
receive, turn, face play. And I think that would work really well. But at the same time, George, I totally see the argument for Eze on the right central midfield role as well, especially as you alluded to as a floating 10 in terms of someone drifting between right and left and vice versa.
Well, I want to talk about this because I mean, look, you've got this like box midfield, let's call it, that we've
Yeah.
come to know at Arsenal, and you're going to have Calafiori up on the on the overlap here. The only thing that I say with this formation, slightly, it puts a lot of pressure on the left central midfielder, which may have to be Rice,
Mm-hmm.
who may have to do this, and it may restrict his runs. Now,
Yeah.
I would love to see Rice a little bit more at right central midfield, and us to have a situation where, with this, Zubamendi may be able to stay a little bit deeper, but it puts a lot of pressure on Gabriel to defend this kind of wide space, which I'll circle with Gabriel here.
Yeah.
Because to me, like in the press, Calafiori needs to occupy these wide zones to get Eze on the inside. Now, I think Eze is perfectly fine operating touchline, but he does want to come inside for his max
Absolutely.
kind
Yeah.
of capability, right? I think an interesting player, by the way, is going to be Miles in terms of how we do fit this in general. But just to show people, like I think this flexibility is something that I can see in moments at times. So we talked about this, but I think that this is something that I can really see pop in moments with Gyökeres able to overlap, Martinelli able to come inside. You've got the Calafiori option to come inside, Martinelli to come in, Zubamendi to be high and wide. You've got a lot of flexibility here in this
Yeah.
type of lineup to have like the floating number 10. And also, as they can also combine and come over on the right. And, you
Yeah.
may, if you wanted to have him do a little bit of this option, by the way, um, one thing that I'm not opposed to is having a little bit more of a kind of a Ben White on the overlap here and having
Yeah.
that kind of dynamism on the inside to allow Eze to maybe be a little bit more central, cheat a bit. And, you might have something like this. And maybe this might want more of a Miles kind of change just to give it some more balance,
Mm.
on the inside. And, I think these kind of switches are a little bit nitpicky. They're a little bit tactical, and we're going to get into something that's not tactical. But as a whole, I just think it gives us options, you know,
Horses for courses, George, isn't it? It's
a-
horses for courses.
absolutely. And you know, even if he wanted to go, I think that our most likely lineup is going to be something that we all know, you know, so when we have
Yeah,
this in terms of kind of the traditional 4-3-3 that we know, and I think there is potential for Martinelli to worry about his place. There is potential for us to basically have this as our main starting lineup with, of course, Martin Odegaard up top leading our press, right? And Eze on the inside. It just, for me, I do feel that there is potential that I would love to see a Miles as an 8 option at times in something like this. I think that, you know, the only fear I would have from that left hand side with Calafiori so cavalier, so willing to move in those spaces, it basically asks Gabriel to be what he's always been, which is a tank and somebody that's able to
yeah,
really
beast.
control those wide spaces.
Yeah, yeah,
So it, for me, it just opens up a level of fluidity that the right hand side has had for years and the left hand
absolutely.
side has lacked, really.
Yeah,
And you've now got, I'd say, two great profiles, and there's no excuses in a sense of lacking a type of player to make it work right now.
absolutely.
I do think it puts a little bit of pressure on Calafiori to be fit, because
Yeah, 100%.
without that, I don't know who the overlap's going to be if you're going to play an as a left wing. Um, and I think that the only thing that I would say to end, because I do want to get to your guys' comments as well, and we'll take some of your guys' questions, is I think that the adulation this does to Arsenal is probably even worth more than the tactical adjustment
Mate,
that I'm looking for,
100%.
because it is just I can talk to you about the different formations, and I get excited about how Eze can drift right for me. I can tell you how Eze can operate from the left. I can tell you how, to me, we didn't even get into it, but you know, there's a Madueke left wing option with, you know, Eze in the 10 to hold the wing.
Yeah,
Like there's a lot of things that Eze gives this team, a lot of things. But as the most expensive signing in a summer that we've looked for quality, where does that rank for you as far as what was left? I mean, there was this whole what's available out there now to salvage things. Was Eze your number one pick if you had your choice about what was available on the market?
oh, 100%. 100%. I've been wanting Eze from the start of this window,
Yeah.
especially when it became apparent that this could actually happen. And I actually didn't know at the time that he was an Arsenal boy, and I didn't know about the academy in which he very early on he was rejected. And I just think the story is brilliant. And for me, mate, when we talk about tactics, I'm telling you now, it's that feeling that is going to be in that ground against Leeds. Like, imagine we get this deal done before Leeds, and the feeling that is going to generate amongst those fans. First game of the season in terms of first home game at the Emirates. That feeling is unmatched, and I just think like Arsenal. I think like the older Arsenal fans, well, not older actually, but like the fans who have seen Arsene Wenger's peak teams in terms of the transition from physical to more technical that we saw, your Fabregases, your Nasris, your Flebs, your Rosiskis, Ozils, Cazolas, Wilsheres, Ramses. These are players who are like Arsenal coded, and Eze fits in that mold. Where we mentioned it before on the main pod, where it's like Arsene Wenger in his peak there would just get loads of players who are just fantastic in central spaces, who can turn, receive, carry, make things happen. And that's why we were fantastic against teams who'd sit off. I don't think there is a team in Premier League history was able to pick off low blocks in the way that Arsene Wenger's teams did freely at will.
Yeah.
It's other games that we certainly found ourselves come up short. But like when we're talking about that period in which we saw really good football under Wenger, in the Emirates era in particular, I want to focus on the Emirates era. That's what it was. And I think for me, Eze gives us that element of Arsenal heritage. That is an Arsenal player. Whereas you look at other players that we have signed, you wouldn't necessarily associate them as being like typical Arsenal heritage players. And I think that feeling is fantastic. And mate, he's outside of the feeling because you then go a little bit too much into that passion mode motion. This is a serious player. It's a seriously gifted and
Yeah.
talented player who is, and I think soft factors. Him being an Arsenal fan, these things do matter in terms of when you play and what it can kind of bring, what level it can bring out of you. So, yeah, I'm buzzing, man. Honestly.
Can you give me? I've got my traits loaded. Can you give me your three best things that Eze gives us. It could be tactical, it could be cultural. Give me your top three things that Eze does provide to us.
The ability to carry from deep over
Yep.
large distances. The ability to turn in tight spaces and weave out and make things happen. And the dribbling prowess on top of the ball striking. There's just so much. There's so much. There's so many things he adds. But I'd say those are the things. And they're linked to the ability to thrive in open spaces. All of them are linked there. So, yeah.
Yeah, and mate, for me, there's three. I'll try to do things differently than you. Okay, this is a player who, for me, is a different level combiner than we have in the squad. I
Yeah.
mean, we've got so many players that are willing to stretch and attack space at this point. We've got so many players that are willing, like Bukayo Saka, to maybe go on the inside but have a cut back, make the right decision. But I don't think we have too many players that are like the you touch, I touch,
Yeah.
wanting to go into flow. I call it the flow players. We really don't have a ton of those players. So he brings that. By the way, free kicks. I know we found Declan Rice against Madrid, but mate, this is one of the best players in the Premier League at shooting outside the box, not just on static ball situations, but also just finishing outside the box, which is something Arsenal really struggle with. We don't have a lot of XG on shots on targets that are from outside the box. We develop a lot inside the box, but that's another thing. And I think the last thing is to have somebody that is one of the most technical players in the league potentially going. And I think, you know what, I'll just read it out there because it's huge news for the club. From Semi Mockbill. Thank you.
Big Sammy.
The deal's moving very quickly. Expect Eze to be an Arsenal player. The agreement in principle already in place. Closing in on a move for Eberechi. Eze, mate, come on. You can't tell me that this deal wasn't in the pipeline. You can't tell me that a 60 million pound deal just pops out of nowhere like this. I truly feel this is Willian in live time. Yeah. And I know this stuff doesn't matter, but to me, the narrative of beating Spurs, which to me was always a given.
Yeah.
Do you think any of this stuff
it's brilliant because what we did is like we fed them the opportunity, the perceived opportunity of like, here you go. And they went, nah, unlucky, mate. That's what it was. Mate, this is I think he's going to play against Leeds.
Mate, I'm
there.
There's he's definitely making the bench. And the only reason would be whether or not you think that he can play in. And look, I'll tie this up. I definitely want to get to your guys' comments. So maybe you guys make sure that you guys throw in some of your questions. Rohan, maybe you can pull up some of the super chats because we've just been waffling for 45 and we'll get through those and then do some of your questions and then to sign off. So from @NeverLosing, thank you for your super chat. Eze, I may be greedy, but I want more. I love you. Well, we love you.
We love you
losing.
Too,
it is never losing when there's love around.
Do you want more, George? Or do you think that's enough? That's enough now.
My God. Do I want more? It's like asking, like, do you need more candy to a kid? At Gaming Shed Magic Geo 3012. That is such a YouTube name. I love that. Facts. This is as big, if not bigger, than Ozil. Yeah, I think the cultural impact, which we've kind of touched on ins and outs, is going to be massive from the fans, to be honest with you. At Ivan Smith 3718, the last few days have been such an emotional roller coaster. We needed this.
Mate, honestly. Mate, honestly, I'm telling you, the time difference is different for yourself. I'm guessing you probably woke up to the Havertz news, whereas that just hit me like a hammer. Just some random guy at work, just like, have you seen the Havertz news? That hit me. And then, we needed this. We needed this so much.
And people were concerned that we needed a major injury to trigger. I think we kind of addressed that at the beginning. I think that there is credence to both. Okay. I think you can't ignore because the Trossard rather, not just the Havertz injury, but the Trossard type of extension is weird to pair with the idea of it. Yeah. But at the same token, I don't think that a move goes.
It's also really difficult to say, isn't it, George? Because everything's happened like so quickly. It naturally makes you, It naturally makes you think, okay, Trossard pay rise, but not an extension. Havertz injury, Eze now accelerating. It does make you think, but I don't know. I don't think it's been contingent on a Havertz injury or a Gyökeres injury. Let's say when we're talking strictly centre forwards, but I do think maybe the Trossard thing could be linked to the Havertz injury or whatnot. But who cares? We've got Eze. Well, it seems like it's going to happen. Like probably tonight,
Absolutely.
mate. He's probably on his bike right now, coming to London Colney.
honestly. At MJ, thank you, buddy. Wenger dropping a tear right now.
Honestly, yeah.
Barkley, it is one of those. It is one of those. It's just such an Arsenal signing, and I love it. I couldn't be happier. You want to read the last couple, mate? I've been taking them
For
all.
sure, 100%. So from at Crimson575, I think this is the first time I can remember that we've tried to hijack a transfer. Yeah, actually, that's a good question. I don't think it's been like as abrupt as what we've seen here, isn't it? Because it seemed very likely when we look at the reports that it was going to happen to Spurs, and then Arsenal just because I think what it is, George, is like if Arsenal put their name in the hat, it was always going to be a given. If Arsenal didn't get Eze, it would have been a case of Arsenal simply not going for the player, you know. But I don't know if that's what. I think that's where you.
I'll be honest with you. Okay, it's weird. I've not seen us move this way. It's not common, but I felt if we wanted Eze, we had to move this way. If that makes sense. Like if this was at all a saga in which we did throw our hand in quite early, personally, I think Palace have the upper hand. They know that we need to sell. They know that we're having trouble with sales, and I think we needed somebody to make the move. We needed somebody to ease the door a bit.
Yeah.
But then at the same token, I'm like, that's not Arsenal. I've not seen us be this demanding and dominant. And it's another example of Arsenal being bullish in this market. And yeah, look, I think I said it kind of before. This takes my window from a 6.5 to an 8. And that's regardless.
This is what we said in the main pod, isn't it? So me and Alex were slightly higher than you because you know when we factor all the extensions or the potential extensions to Saliba and Saka, but what we all agreed on was the fact that an Eze takes the window by 1/1.5 marks, you know, and that's how big it is, you know, and then it gives people a lot more assurances and more ease with the Madueke signing, more ease with it being pair of Gyökeres as well. So yeah, I felt like it was all contingent on Eze for this to all make sense and for it to be a window that showed the ambition that we had been told many times in terms of Mikel alluding to it being getting goosebumps, it being potentially an unprecedented window. And I think from what we've done in terms of the early business, those deals that I maintain were really good and getting specific players who absolutely were needed in the squad for various different reasons, and now we're adding like the final icing on that cake. So
it's the I understand if we get Eze.
Exactly. Now we've got it. We don't need to keep doing this.
We don't, and we can just talk about the broadness of the deal. And you know, as Steel Josh says it, this is the perfect reaction. You want to do it?
I won't do it, but what I will say is I really would love to play Spurs this weekend. You know, because going back to that the Isak thing, the Isak situation in Liverpool, it's crazy because I was seeing reports like Isak is determined to go to Liverpool now to then beat Newcastle. That's so crazy. I want to do that now with Eze against Spurs. I'd love to do that.
Oh man, I hate that it's happened to Thomas Frank. I love that it's happened to them, but I hate that it's happened to Thomas Frank.
Forget him, George. He's not one of us anymore. Forget that guy. At DB1469, thank you so much for your super chat. Happy day, lads. By the way, Ben Jacobs just retweeted more background on the Eze transfer. Yeah, you've seen Ben Jacobs, David Ornstein, and Sammy Mockball as well, who has been fantastic with Arsenal news for many years now. This just seems like it's going to happen. Like, by the time we close this stream, it'd be done.
Yeah, exactly. At Soon2696. Side note, what do you think of the Isaac drama? I mean, personally, I have no sympathy for Alexander Isaac, who should have done this a lot earlier. If this was what you were ultimately always going to do and take the stand that you were willing to do for me, I don't understand why you do this late in the window. And I mean, from a Newcastle perspective, I just have to be fair. I think there's no chance they let him. No matter how unhappy he's going to be. I mean, look, it might seem odd because now you're saying, well, why is Eze making the move? Well, Eze's made kind of done this around the right way. Like he's not handed in a transfer request. There
Yeah,
hasn't been this animosity between fan base. Now it's about pride, right? Like I think it's gone beyond the transfer. So Liverpool could offer 130 million pounds, and I still think Newcastle would reject it.
yeah.
And
I
it's
think so as
gone
well.
beyond money for me.
Yeah. Do you know what it is as well? Just quickly on the Eze point, and that's why I wanted to mention that Chelsea game where a lot of players, you notice a dip in their performance level when they have attracted interest and it seems like a deal was going to happen. But you saw of Eze, those links didn't, phase him, and he
Yeah.
put in a really good performance against Chelsea that was played a big part in terms of them getting that point at Stamford Bridge. So yeah, and that tells me what kind of player he is as well in terms of his attitude and just being professional. So yeah, at Pegasus Snoops, member for 19 months. That is a committed man. Thank you, sir. Committed man or committed woman. Prez, just had to quickly get in there. Prez, big ups for Kai getting as a hijack. Yeah, we spoke about the Havertz injury and whether that was the driver to this Eze deal, which we both didn't feel it is, but maybe there is something there with the Trossard and the Kai link there. But yeah, we shall see. At Mogman, thank you so much for your super chat. So happy birthday, George. We birthday twins. Oh,
Happy birthday, buddy.
nice. And he's got very nice hair there as well, giving very Thor vibes. Oh, thank you so much, guys, for your super chats. We do really appreciate it. At NoMen95, third kit, long sleeve Eze on the back. I mean, mate, that third kit looks insane.
I'm getting it.
Yeah. So I've said this to Alex. I'm very picky on the kits, right? So I was really all in on the home kit, but then when I saw it in person, I don't know if I'm going to annoy people here. It's not all that. I don't think.
Really.
It's not all that.
No. I'm getting the third kit. I think the last kit I got was the marble one.
The
white marble one because I thought it was sick.
Yeah.
I'm getting this third kit too. I can't. It's so nice.
Who on the back? Kepper?
No one on the back.
No one on the back. Oh, that was mean from me. Sorry. Sorry, Kepper. At Aaron Srivastava.
Srivastava.
Yeah, Srivastava. I should really know this as well. Completely butchered that. Let's go, guys. I will not be swearing. So yeah, just hope it gets over the line soon. Yeah, mate. I'm telling you, this is going to happen. In the next couple of days, or even the next day. This is seeming like it's happening really quickly. Do you reckon this is being worked in the background, George? 100%. It has to be, isn't it? It has to.
You don't do 60 million pound deals that just pop on. Look, do you know what I think happened? 100%. I feel that we've talked to Eze personally very early, and he's like, of course you're my guys.
Yeah.
But I don't think we've moved to Crystal Palace until it got to a point in which Spurs have agreed a deal, and then with the deal agreed, Crystal Palace can't move any of their kind of bookends in terms of the price. That was the price that was agreed with Spurs. So we'll pop on, we'll do it, and we'll do it for better payment terms. And Bob's your uncle, and we'll seal this deal quickly because we know the player wants us. And I think that's been the strategy, to be honest. I quoted Willian. I think I've been in group chats saying to people, I think this is a Willian. And
it's happened.
And it's happened.
At FinV8132, thank you so much for your super chat. It's very kind. At Ritik -D97 D9Z, Trossard contract extension plus Eze equals Martinelli out plus new striker. I personally think Eze will be the end of our business, and you know what? I'm buzzing with that. I don't know what you judge. I don't think we should be marking this window now post Havertz injury. I think that's really unfair. So factoring a Havertz injury and saying, oh, we should be marking it down now because of that injury. We've got a lot of players, honestly, a lot of forward players, especially with the Trossard, keeping Trossard as well. So
look, the only thing that I'll maintain just to keep consistency, I wanted 2 starting 11 upgrades. I'm not sure Gyökeres is that for me as a guarantee, but I didn't see a window in which we fixed that. I had already made peace with that. And so I thought that the top that we could do with this window would be a 9 if we got the extensions that we wanted and sales. I'm all about making sales. at this
Yeah.
point. And look, my only cheeky thing is potentially an Anthony Robinson type thing with Fulham. If we
You're
can,
on that Robinson train now, aren't you? I've been noticing.
it is more about me being very fearful about Calafiori lasting a season. And knowing that Eze is happening now, I think Eze means that an overlapping left back is more important than a Rodrigo. I think Rodrigo had an ability to be touchline more than an Eze did.
Yeah.
And the fact that I know it's Eze, it's like, okay, now I really need somebody on the outside. Before I felt like you could, and I still think that, I still think that Eze can operate on touchline, but it'll be very Martinelli-esque, and I don't want that. And so for me, there's no point in buying and making him our most expensive signing of the summer and then having him touchline. That's just beyond stupid to me.
Yeah.
So
It's not how he's been used at Crystal Palace, despite nominally it's seeming that way. Palace play with wing backs who go high and wide, and Eze is then allowed to come inside. It's the same as Sarr as well on the other side with Munoz. You know, is it the case of Eze can't do it? No, absolutely, Eze could do it, but then it's a case of, does Eze unlock his best qualities in that specific role? No, so it doesn't make sense in that regard. But I'm adamant, especially what we've seen in the latter stage of pre-season against Manchester United. You're seeing changes, and listen, there's teething issues, and we can be critical of those issues, but at the same time, we've been asking for change in certain departments, and we're getting it. So you have to give a bit of.
And mate, I'll be honest, I am a lot more optimistic on the whole Havertz thing with Marino. I'm not going to lie. Like, in terms of just a tactical option to go over the top of a press to compete with aerial duels, he's got it. He has not got the same thrust that Havertz has in the channels. Havertz has an ability to be that reference in aerial duels, but also turn, run, and stretch.
Yeah.
Marino can't do that, but he can be the backboard. And if we've got the stretchers now in Martinelli, Asaka, and Eze, people that can go off of Madueke, like, we can combine to make some of those things. Marino will be incredibly useful in terms of just certain tactical ideas if you want to just get into the box. And I don't think we completely lack the option. He's not perfect. I mean, Havertz is a loss. You don't sit there and say he's not a loss, but I think the tactical implications that I think people are a lot more fearful of are a little bit less than maybe we might think, because we already talked about how Gyökeres and Havertz might have to share minutes, period.
Yeah.
To me, as long as we're not looking at a situation of an extended period of Marino being the starting number 9 for 4 months, then I'm okay. But, if we're talking about him coming in to close out games, to give a different option, at a 0-0 game state, get balls in the box, get him to be an
100%. Yeah.
There's no way that, I'm now annoyed or now fearful that we don't have that option. In fact, I would argue he's a bigger aerial threat than Kai, even in that specific need.
He's one of our best finishers at the club.
It's crazy, isn't it?
It's actually nuts. And that's the thing. Like, when I look at Marino, I mentioned many times the weaknesses and the cons with Marino as a player, but what he does have in abundance is a real good feel for the game in the final third in box situations. It's not luck that he finds himself every single time with a really good goal scoring opportunity. And that's when Mikel mentioned it post Brentford away last season. He said, when the game becomes one in which the opposition feel more comfortable in keeping more bodies deeper, and that's where the density largens, you need someone like Marino there who gives you that threat and that opportunity to really go even more direct and to put crosses into the box, and for him to be on the end of a ricochet, and he's fantastic in that regard. So,
and hate to be that guy, let's wait to hear news, guys. Like, I mean, we're sitting there saying, like, I'm sure, look, Havertz, I think, is definitely out. I don't think it's one of those that he's now playing against Leeds, but the duration.
Medical George, give me like some form.
I can't. I honestly can't. I didn't even. There's no mechanism. The only thing I will say, it's impossible for them to know what it is, by the way, because even if it was an ACL, they have to wait a couple days for the swelling to go down in order to get imaging, because the imaging won't read. So you get that, you get the imaging. The imaging will be very clear about what type of grade it is, and then we move from there. So, before we sign off, do you have any other more super chats?
Just a few more super chats from at FinV8132. What does this mean?
I think we might have got it. Here we go, unless I'm getting trolled.
Is it? What does this mean for Nwaneri and Co? Yeah, so we spoke about Nwaneri and Co earlier in the stream, in terms of how I'd say it eases the pressure that is placed on one area. It allows Max Baumann to continue to, develop at a pace that is not as rushed, which is what I've always felt a little bit worried about. I just don't know how I can kind of, plan for a 15-year-old going into the season. So and Eze gives you that that security. And I think there's one more super chat from James in exile, calling Daniel Levy, taxi for Eze, please. Unlucky, mate.
Look, I'm still kind of reeling, to be honest with you. I am so happy. Why don't you give me your final thoughts, Mr. Rohan Jivan, and then I'll give mine, and then we can sign off on this wonderful birthday gift that they have
I
given
had completely different plans for this evening. I was chilling out. I was watching some travel videos, planning for holidays, and now I'm just going to be watching Eze YouTube comps. I know the player. I know the player very well, but it's like I just want. Go on a TV. There's this really good comp maker on YouTube. I think he's got an Eze comp. I'm just gonna watch that. I'm just gonna be vibing off that.
Yeah.
But happy birthday, George. What else have you got planned today, my man?
Mate, Eze videos until dinner tonight. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do some Eze videos until dinner, smiling like a Cheshire cat, and then I'm just gonna have some dinner, calm night, relax with the fiance, all those good things.
Oh yeah. Nice. Another super chat. Thank you so much, Daniel Burke 3485. Any chance for Havertz scans to come back positive? Then we know Eze.
No,
I'm guessing he's alluding to any chance of
if the injury is not as bad as first feared, and then do we no longer do Eze? I don't think you make a record bid for the summer not to complete it and continue to go through.
The bomber was the IndyCar bomber.
Oh my god. The worst thing Ornstein has done is given credibility to that to a fast.
That account has been going on for I think it's been a decade. I'm pretty sure he's been going on for ages. Listen, we'll take anything. We'll take anything today.
Listen, guys, thank you guys so much. We have actually done it as a scouted, by the way, that I do want to promote. So if you guys do like the comment, make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. You hit the link down below for a 7-day free trial on our Patreon. And you can get up to the scouted on Eze, in which we have done a deep dive into all things out of possession, in possession. But of course, we have tons of other things. Rohan, what is some of the other content that they can have at the Cannon Podcast if you guys do sign up?
You've got plethora of content. What are you waiting for? You've got rewatches, scouted, ad-free main pods, ad-free youth pod, access to youth pods. You've got access to TCP Live, ad-free. You've got the Discord server, which is always popping off. Always discussions happening. I think there's around close to 30 people in there in the Discord. So there's a lot of people there. So yeah, just so much content, and yeah, with the new season underway, it's the best time as well. The best time.
Absolutely. That's perfect. And one more super
for
chat.
God's sake.
You got to read it. You got to respect it.
Oh, fair enough. Thank you, David, so much for your super chat.
Oh my goodness. Well, David, that is going to be a personal delivery to you from Mr. Rohan Jivan, maybe at some point. That is quite the compliment. But guys, thank you so much for sticking with us. I hope you guys enjoyed some of the impromptu live. Of course, we've got tons of stuff. Check out the main pod that we did on Monday. We've also got today, I believe, we did a rewatch of United if you really wanted that. But ultimately, enjoy and bask in the Eze news. I hope you guys all love and enjoy it. Thank you, everybody, to all the birthday compliments that I received. I really do appreciate it. I just love this community. I love all of you guys. Thank you so much for everything. And I will wait for Rohan to throw out the outro. But thank you guys so much. And thanks for keeping it Arsenal.
Tens of thousands of football fans came to Highbury. This was one kind of queue the ladies thoroughly enjoyed.
Electrifying. Ferocious.